and gentlemen, welcome to You in Wellness, podcast designed to talk about everything in regards to wellness. Today we're going to talk about finances, and our current climate in Trinidad and Tobago with regards to foreign exchange, and how specifically an entrepreneur could actually navigate that space. Today we have on the podcast Kevin Valley, a business valuator and consultant. We have one and only Keron Rose, our digipreneur, all the way in Thailand. I must say that he is the one for helping me start up my podcast. So I'm really grateful for having you on, Kevin. Kevin, Keron. Oh, and we'll get real tied up today, because guess what? It's Kevin, Keron, Kerwin, and Kerwin.
Yeah, boy.
This is a K episode.
Oh gosh. And then we have Kerwin Springer, my cousin, if you didn't know. He is the founder of the Student Hub, doing massive things with the youths outside here, man, and preparing them for exams and whatnot. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. Oh gosh, I know the time zone span. Thank you, Kerwin, for coming out of your bed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks.
But bro, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. Kevin, all the way out in Nigeria. Oh gosh, boy. Oh gosh. And Keron in Thailand. Whoo, there's an international podcast now. Gentlemen, you're all authorities in your field, and I thank you so much for giving You in Wellness a little bit of your time, man.
Hi, I'm Kevin Valley. I'm a consultant. I'm a business evaluator. I typically work with companies who are looking to raise capital. So I also, in addition to providing them with business valuations, I will also connect them to my network of investors to help them get the funding they need to scale their business.
My name is Keron Rose. I'm a digital strategist and e-commerce specialist. I am also a media personality, the host of the Digital World on Freedom 106.5 FM, and the host of the Digipreneur on Jamaica Observer and Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. I am also a program advisor at the University of South Florida and a lecturer at Sir Arthur Lockjack.
So I'm Kerwin Springer. I'm an online teacher. And I function as the managing director and founder of the Student Hub.
So let's jump right in. We saw in the last couple of weeks, Republic Bank decreased the amount of U.S. allocation from 5,000 to 2,000. Same thing for Scotiabank as well, putting real people on the crunch. How are we dealing with that, fellas? How we deal? Keron, start me off. You've been the one pontificating about this thing for a long time and saying everybody, only watch out, start to diversify, angle yourself in such a way. We find ourselves in a real sticky situation. I mean,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keron.
Yeah. So I mean, as we were talking offline, I think one of the biggest reasons why I've been so vocal about it is because since I've come to Trinidad, I've been seeing this happening every single year. The USD allocation has reduced every single year since I've been in Trinidad for the last 10 years. I remember when I first came, one of the first cards that I got, or when I was inquiring about cards, how to do online purchasing, I remember at that time, the banks were only giving out the Links cards with the stripe. So it did not have any access to the international markets. At that point in time, the credit card penetration rate in Trinidad was like less than 10%. It was extremely low. And the only way that you could make purchases online or do any kind of business outside of Trinidad was if you got one of the prepaid credit cards from any one of the banks or the VTM cards, right? And I remember the first time I got my FCB MasterCard, it had a limit of like 10,000 USD per purchase at that point in time. And then after 6 months of having that card, they reduced it to 1,000 USD per purchase. Now it's within 6 months, all right? So from that point in time in 2014, 2015, they were reducing the limits at that point in time, but it was mainly to the prepaid credit cards, and it just progressed every single year. And I realized you don't have what happens when you no longer have the USD allocation. You don't have access to the international market. So we've been seeing it happening for a very long time now.
Yeah. Kerwin, how you been managing with that, right?
Well, I wish I was around Karen to find out about these early markers a little earlier on, but being an entrepreneur, um, we like when Karen posted it saying about how to circumvent the Forex problem, some of the ideas, I was like, wow, this man is literally selling out my whole stick here because as an entrepreneur you just kind of look for a way all the time. So and you would know, Kun, I was speaking to you about it recently, so we would set up foreign bank accounts, so because the business must go on, right? So we but one of the things I mentioned in a post that Karen did is that the the more, and this happens in all countries that facing the inflation and forex problems, the more you try to regulate it from like the government perspective, is the more people circumvent whatever to try and get the problem solved for themselves, at least entrepreneurs, and in some way it exacerbates the problem. So
Agreed.
um
100%.
let's look at Argentina. So Argentina was going through the same thing like Trinidad. Um, they were far worse. They were in a far worse state. Their inflation is some kind of 200% or some kind of thing, above 200%. And one of the things they decided to do, one of the problems that was trumpeted by politicians, was like the rent. So they wanted to curb rent. The rent was too high, the rent is too high, so landlords became the enemy. Then that is the reason why inflation, forex problems, everything. So they instilled the regulations and rent caps, and what that did is just drove everything into the black market. People they stopped up keeping their houses. If you go and check out some of the regulations that governments put into place, central banks put into place, it often does nothing to help the problem. There is one or two real solutions. I say three real solutions to the forex problem, from what I could see, and uh, nobody really
Right.
talking about
But
the problem. It's
hold
a
on
mad
to it.
situation.
Hold on to it. We're going into that.
Yes,
We're going
sir.
to into them. Kevin, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think from that's from a broad perspective. Now, I just want to put a disclaimer. I'm not an economist, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I may have a little bit to understand economics. I'm not an economist. Don't expect any such a high level expert policy recommendations or whatnot. But just looking at it, it's really a it's really a function of demand and supply, right? And the main reason for our forex crisis right now is just that, hey, we demand a lot more USD than than we than we have available, right? And the reason for this is because we, as businesses, as citizens, we're not we're not generating enough, we're not exporting enough, I should say, right? So we look at what happened in the energy sector, the mainstay of our economy. If we rely on the energy sector alone, then we're also making ourselves volatile to the fluctuation in oil and gas prices. So I think it really is about instilling confidence, instilling better business practices, and also businesses in Trinidad should have more of a export mindset, right? Especially if you know you need USD revenues. Think about, okay, what can I do to generate more USD earnings for my company?
Yeah, and that's a question that we all should be thinking about, in fact. I've been saying to persons recently, since my introduction into another territory, I've been like, yo, if you're not earning USD, you're not making money. If you're not earning USD, something real wrong with your business, and you had to go back and check what's going on. Because, from things like raw materials, equipment, we don't manufacture those things in Trinidad, and as a result, you need to seek the external market to bring that in. And if you don't have the USD or the foreign exchange to actually purchase that, you find yourself in a real monkey pants, as it were. So, and what I find happening is that the black market becomes a more thriving option. Because if it is that I can't get USD, if I had to come Nigeria or come Thailand or even in the US, you understand, I walk in the bank and I say, listen, this is my ticket. I need 500 USD. Bank telling me, no, you're getting $100 or $200.
Even if you have 2,000 USD in your account.
That's crazy. That's
I
crazy.
know. And then let's say if I go to the US, my credit card is what, 5,000 or 2,000 US. Yeah. By the time I buy my tickets, purchase an Airbnb or a hotel, that credit card dead, That credit card dead. So
Karen, to interrupt you did the credit card swap thing. I see you mention it, and just the way you mention it is like I know you felt that credit card roulette thing. Is that what you said, Karen? Where you're paying? Okay, check this one. All right, check this one. Check this one. No, I know I have 500. You mean it? And now that is the worst.
It's happened. It's happened where I remember last year I was in Bahamas and I had 3 gigs that I had to do in Bahamas for that week, right? But for
Right.
those 3 gigs, I was in 3 different hotels. So what messed me up was, even though I was paid to be there and the organizers paid for the hotel, they paid for my flights, you know what I had to pay for? I had to put a credit card on file for incidentals.
Right.
And the hotels maxed out the entire USD limit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had no money to my name. I had no access to no money.
Right.
All because of the incidentals maxing out the card. So when I call the bank now, right? I would love to call their name, but I'll spare them today. When I call the bank and I'm like, yo, I have money in my account. This is a situation. My USD is maxed out because of the incidentals. I have access to no money, and all of my money is in your bank.
wow.
Can you give me a temporary increase of USD allocation, something, so I can access my money in my account?
Right.
Girl goes, hey, you know what? Yes, we could definitely help you out. So the procedure is you need to come into the branch. There's a document to fill out, and it's going to take 1 to 2 months for approval, and then you can get the temporary increase. I'm like, let's bring this back, because clearly you're not hearing me.
No, it's
Clearly,
crazy. It's
you're
crazy.
not
It's
hearing
crazy.
me. And basically, she said, well, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing you can do. Too bad, too sad. Right?
Mhm.
So even when you have the money in your account, once that is maxed out for your credit cards, that is it. And I know we'll get into, how we go about navigating that, but yeah.
Let's get into it one time. How do we get more US to spend? Because that's what we need. That's what we're here for. Let's walk into that one time. Kerwin, you say that there are 3 things that we need to do in order to fix this thing. Talk to me.
So I was talking from a pure mathematics teacher, watching the equation perspective, right? So I too am not an economist, but yes, it is an equation. We Forex, the X in Forex mean exchange, right? So income, output, input, output. So we need to export more than we import. So so that's one of the things. So one of the things is creating an economic stability and regulations that attract persons, which is the second thing, that attracts persons and also helps the local entrepreneurs, local businesses to balance that equation better for themselves. So when you look at my father always used to tell me, Kerwin, don't reinvent the wheel, and I take it into business. Anytime I look at a problem, you try to look at solutions that have happened before. So if you look at countries that have turned it around, they have some key commonalities in all of them. One of them is dealing properly with crime. And it's usually drastic. So it's usually draconian, like involving like wrongs in up the entire cartels, everything like that. So that's one. And why is that a thing? Because there is no economic stability, there's no attraction for entrepreneurs, businesses when crime is a huge problem. And Trinidad has done the opposite.
Yeah.
Trinidad has done the opposite within the last 10 years. And I think that is actually one of the factors that people are really not really trumpeting too hard, because we have excellent human resource in terms of the ideas and creativity. Look, all of us here are entrepreneurs that do really well. And I think all of us, when I listen to the business that we do, are net positive for USD in Trinidad. We probably give more than we take. So I definitely do. I definitely bring in way more USD into the country, or potentially could, but I don't let it touch the country shores anymore. Yeah, so you understand. So by creating that kind of toxic environment for entrepreneur, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So I would say those are the two. I was watching another reason earlier when I was doing some research on this, but it slipped me right now. But those are the two main things: regulations. We shouldn't have a whole bunch of regulations. We shouldn't be stifling entrepreneurial work, and we need to get on top of crime. Now that's in the macro. In the micro, I think Karen is better able to describe that. Although I myself am doing my own stuff to keep USD within the company. Karen has the whole rundown on that.
But I want to go to Kevin, because Kevin, because of your association, we've been talking about diversification from since your dad's time.
Yep.
And we have not been able to successfully, I would say, diversify or free ourselves out of oil and gas. Basically, what do we do now as we are in a crunch? I mean, from an island level, to bring in more foreign exchange to balance that kind of equation.
I think it's as you were alluding to, it's about building domestic capacity first. From domestic capacity, then we improve our domestic production. And if we have the items available locally, be it food, be it affordable clothing or whatnot, then we'd have less need to go online and go on Amazon and buy it. Simple things like that. All right. So yeah, I think it's really about making our businesses better and investing in entrepreneurship, investing in tools for better business development and stuff within the economy, so that we could drive more local consumption and reduce our exports, right? In so doing, I know tourism is a challenge for Trinidad and Tobago outside of like the carnival season or whatnot, right? So we need to look at what could make us more attractive to tourists, so to people to come in here and spend their USD currency or whatnot. Because right now, Trinidad is not known as a tourist island.
Apart from Carnival.
Apart from everybody, it can't just be that one thing. So what else can we do to have people come back in like in October or something like that? I mean, Christmas in Trinidad is a nice time, but I mean,
we still don't have a lot of the raw material in order to produce things. Yeah, and that raw material still requires foreign exchange.
Well, we have a decent agriculture sector that could improve. We have a good cocoa sector, cocoa and chocolate sector and whatnot. So we could look at leaning on what we have, whatever is our competitive advantages, whatever we can produce for somewhat cheaply or whatnot. Let's sort of lean into that. But yeah, no, it's a challenge. For example, if you're a restaurant and you need to import supplies from import equipment and things from China. But while you're importing equipment from China or the US, why not export that sauce that you're so well known for? To sort of counteract that. Like think about your Royal Castle pepper sauce.
While I appreciate that agriculture, we have some I've been to some of the chocolate factories, and I appreciate that that could actually be one of the cures. I think our main thing is tech, boy. I just feel like we have the human resource, and we positioned in such a way that we could have that as our main export. Why should the digit entrepreneur Karen feel more comfortable in Thailand? He should have been
Well,
real good here. He should have been getting the red carpet treatment here. So we should have had banking, the laws, the corporate tax, the encouragement, and of course, no crime that makes him feel comfortable here. Because Karen would have stay here for the ladies alone. Alone. So, so I think that is what we, if I were in any of the areas there, I think that is the number one thing that turns it around. So there in all these situations that I watch, there's commonality in manufacturing, yes. There's commonality in some agriculture, but in the last decade, countries that turn it around, there's no neglection in tech. Mexico, African countries, tech, 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 tech. So that's the
but
easiest, actually, if you think of it.
a question for you. So on the tech side, I could definitely see that working from like an individual entrepreneur, sort of probably small business side. But from a macro standpoint, would you say that Trinidad is in a position where it could use its technology to generate foreign revenues?
No, I'm not saying we have our own technology per se, but I'm talking about, let's say you're a digital consultancy, you're a business consultant. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can operate that business in scale from Trinidad. I am an educational expert. I do my stuff revolves around education. My business is mostly crippled by Trinidad regulations and banking systems, and of course crime as well. Otherwise, my scale would have been maybe 10 times more. And my scale is actually pretty huge right now. I think the footprint is not going to be solved by the 1% companies. I think the footprint is solved just like how in countries you aim at the middle class. The footprint is going to be solved by the middle class companies.
Okay, when I want to say, instead of saying tech, I want to more inclined to say our human resource.
Yeah,
Our,
yeah, I could, yeah. So
yeah.
when I say tech, I don't mean like, okay, our IP, our intellectual property like that. I don't mean like that. I mean like work in tech.
Right,
I would
right.
consider myself in that whole thing.
But your intellectual property actually, I mean, could provide it, I mean. So Keron's business is an IP business. Keron's business is he's using his intellectual property, his ideas, and he's
Okay.
transferring those ideas at scale, no matter where he is around the world. So definitely, you're right. IP media as a means of getting your message across and whatnot, and then tech as a platform to sort of buttress that or to facilitate everything. So no, definitely. But again, that's all from what can we do as entrepreneurs and we do as people. So for me for instance, I intently look for clients outside of Trinidad because I know, okay, well, they're gonna have to pay me for US. All right. And I spend a fair amount of time outside of Trinidad. And even right now I'm having some challenges because I need some US. I have another wedding to pay for.
That girl real catch you, boy. She managed to get 2 weddings, boy. Oh, 2 weddings, boy.
Yeah, nah, I'm Nigerian custom. But anyway,
Good.
yeah, so you really have to be intentional in terms of generating your Forex earnings or what have you, because otherwise you leave yourself vulnerable to whatever's happening in the economy, and you can only control what you can control.
And then the problem with that is that, okay, if we have, let's say all of us are middle class, right? And we operating in that middle class, and we have ideas and we put those things out, and we earn in foreign currency because the regulations are so restrictive. Like if I bring my foreign currency and put it in a US account in Trinidad, I can't touch my foreign currency like how I want to touch it, you know.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
where you're going wrong.
And so regulations now put us in a place where I don't even want to bring that back home. I would love to have it close to me, but it just don't make sense because of the regulation. I could bring that back home and then they telling me I can't take more than $2,000 out at a time.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
You see, this week, Marla Dukaran, The Economist, dropped a piece of content, and she said that we're not asking the right questions. She's like, there are things that could be done. There are protections that were removed. Why haven't we brought that back? Why aren't we doing anything that could solve the problem in the short to medium term? And she's like, we're not asking why that's not happening. And it's because at the end of the day, we are the ones complaining, but it's benefiting who it needs to benefit, right? The US, as we know, is being used. They were talking about how many billions the banks in Trinidad are investing RUSD outside of the country. So it's being used. There is an uneven distribution of that. So what we need to start thinking about on a personal level is everybody should start thinking beyond the TNT borders, right? So whether that be if you don't have many skills and you start looking at jobs in customer service, data entry, customer experience, but for a company outside of Trinidad and Tobago, you're going to be able to generate because you're going to get paid in USD. All right. Now, we would all love to bring that money back into the country because we know we want to start generating Forex for the country. But government at some point, and again, I doubt it's ever going to happen because it's benefiting who it benefits. But at some point, they need to regulate or tell central bank to put out a policy that says if you generate your own USD, then you have full access to your own USD. If you're trying to buy USD from the banks, then hey, it is what it is. But you need to come in and put something in place that if you bring in, it has to happen. Otherwise, business had to run and no one is bringing that money back into the country. They will dump that money into any other bank in the Caribbean because the other banks outside of Barbados don't have that problem. And they're actually starting to advertise to people in Trinidad, come open a bank account with us because now you could park your USD here and you have full access to it, right? Or we open up an account in the US or the UK or anywhere else in the world, and we will not bring that money back into Trinidad. So from a personal level, start thinking about jobs you can do outside of Trinidad. I've been putting out a lot of content talking about some of the top skills that companies are looking for in the globe. We need to start upskilling our human resource because the reality is most of the human resource in Trinidad, they don't have the skills to compete in today's market, right? A lot of the businesses in Trinidad, they themselves are not upgrading their own business practices because they don't have the human resource to power a lot of those things. Now, that's not to say that we're not talented or we're not smart. We have amazing people doing amazing things, but guess what? They do even greater things the minute they leave the Trinidad market. Put a Trini in almost any other space in the world, and we're doing amazing things. We have Trinis in some of the biggest businesses around the world. We have men in NVIDIA. We have women in Facebook. We have people in all these places, but we're not creating that environment at all for the great people that we have to want to stay here and then also allow them to thrive right from here. For us right now, and look at us, all of us are pretty much doing things outside of Trinidad. And that's because we understand that the only way to even begin to survive in Trinidad is you have to do things outside of Trinidad. But if the community and the environment isn't conducive to that in Trinidad, then, well, guess what? All of us are going to be outside of Trinidad doing amazing things, just not in Trinidad as well.
Yep.
That's a brain drain right there, you know? Not a brain and a currency drain right there because I'm not incentivized to bring my currency back home at all. Yeah. And then I remember when you posted one time, you know, it's almost irresponsible to stay in Trinidad with crime as it is right now. You know, yeah, because that's what so if I have all right, Karen, talk to me. If I am I'm a makeup artist, right? I have makeup products, and I need to have stock. Where I get my US from? My credit card at 2,000, I max that. I need US. Where I getting that from? Talk to me.
So let's just say you need to start to generate your own USD, right? You have your business, so you need to generate USD. The first thing you need is you need to have the infrastructure. So you need to have a bank account outside of Trinidad and Tobago. It could be in another Caribbean island. It could be in the US. It could be a digital bank like Mercury, Wise, any of the
Revolut.
Payoneers, also Revolut.
Give
Well,
me all
we
the
don't have
digital
access.
banks. Tell me all the
We don't have
digital banks.
access. But anyways, you have the right idea, right? Any
Yeah.
of these platforms outside of TNT, you need to have those things in place, right? And then you need to start learning how to market yourself. So if you are an employee, you need to start learning how to job hunt in the digital age. We are not accustomed to looking at the different job boards around the world and applying, because even when I tell people, hey, these are websites to apply to for remote jobs, I still people have messaging me asking, well, I can only apply for North American jobs. This is only for North America. And I'm like, did you click on the international filter or for jobs anywhere in the world? And they don't even do a lot of these basic things, right? And it's just because they don't think to do that. So our human capital needs to upskill for the current times that we are in, right? And then if you are a business owner, you need, if you have a physical product, great, because you have to learn how to start to export your product. But we also need more people to start thinking about digital aspect of the money that we can make. We all generate money digitally through a multitude of ways, and every single business has the ability to do that. Even if you were a bank and you're putting out content on social media, you can monetize and get paid, and that be another income stream for even the bank to generate USD. So every business, the biggest to the smallest, needs to start thinking about what are some of the digital ways that we can generate money, whether that be through content, whether that be through courses, whether that be through Google Ads, whatever. There's a multitude of ways to generate currency digitally. We need to start getting versed in those things and then start to put those into place, even when we have a physical business.
Kerwin, what are some of the things that you've done in order to generate US dollars on the outside? I mean, if you could say.
Yeah, well, you said makeup artist. I had a student that I taught maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and she went into nails, and now there's plenty nails, but she just focused on excellence and social media marketing. Her social media went up to 100,000. She got a bunch of international people coming down to just, carnival. They're checking her. Then she migrated to Canada. She migrated to Canada, but she's still in between Canada and Trinidad. But now she does that same thing. And every time she comes to Trinidad, it's like it's usually USD and Canadian dollars and switching and stuff like that. So once again, the high skilled people, the 5% in their fields, we chase them away. So anyhow, what I do is well, we have students from right across the Caribbean. So a lot of our students, they pay us through different ways. They either pay us through PayPal, as Karen was saying. We pay. We have online transfers with banks across the Caribbean, different bank accounts in different Caribbean islands, and from there, the general idea, well, the initial idea was to just bring everything back home and we use it here as capital. But right now it stays. That stays outside as homeless. That's out. that stays outside there where it is safe. So so it will either stay in our US account or Guyana, Jamaica, whatever. So
Yeah.
that's what I do. That's generally what I do. It's just that it doesn't reach back home anymore. So but because I have students from right across the Caribbean, in some ways I'm insulated from that. If things get too tight or regulations get too strict, I would have no other choice but to leave. I mean, crime is already have me like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because as I said, how can I consider myself the real deal. I'm a full blood blooded patriot. I want the best to happen for Trinidad and Tobago. I invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into the community every year, into different programs every year. I give more than I really do give more than I take. Most of what I do is free. So and here here I am. There's a verse in the Bible that says um a prophet is not without honor, saving his own country or his own community. Everywhere I go in the Caribbean, I am courted by the ministries of education. I'm courted by the schools. In Trinidad, it's not so much so. Do you know that? It's
Well,
not so
son,
much so. I've spoken to the Minister of Education once when they really like needed me, and somebody said something. And this guy is like the guy in the online space in education, and there was one little conference there. But other than that, crickets. But everywhere else, people are and they are. Do you know in Guyana, the Ministry of Education printed a book and gave it to every Form 4 and Form 5 student? That book contained all my solutions to CXC maths, and they gave it
Wow.
free. So in different places, they are using they are using all our, like, let's say the 5% in our fields. Guyana is getting more of you, Kun. Guyana is getting more of your
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah. I could live
Is that not
here.
so?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's what it is like.
So
That's
I
what.
mean, I don't want to keep lamenting over the problem. It's there, and we come up with our own solutions for our own business. But if anyone, I made a public post. I'm not a political person. I made a public post. If anyone sells forex, crime, and some other thing, education, I am publicly backing them. If, I
You
am
know,
publicly backing them.
I won't lie, like sometimes I feel like um I want my clients to pay me online. Like I feel like sometimes I want to set up a credit card platform where if you going, for example, you going to pay yeah, pay me like Amazon. Yeah. Pay me through your credit card. Don't come into my office and give me cash. Pay me through your credit card. And that's how I feel sometimes, because it is so sticky to get that currency.
Mhm.
And that is one of the ideas that I've been toying with to try and raise that foreign capital, but not everybody has a credit card. Not everybody has a VTM. Well, they've done
Mhm.
away with VTM stuff,
Yeah.
but
So so businesses that don't import really strong, like we're not manufacturing. I don't have any. Do I have any real imports? Probably laptops but I don't have any continual imports, right? I don't. That's not on my budget. So we are essentially net positive to Trinidad and Tobago. And I would, if somebody is watching this and they're looking for what business should I jump into, I would say we are in the season where you should try to pick a business where you're not heavily reliant on imports, where you don't rely on the outside, and it will also indirectly help the problem. In that you would be exporting your business more. So you're trying to pick a business that you're not reliant on having to get things. I have a neighbor who her business is like that, and it's a struggle. And her business does really well, but because they have to import ingredients, it's a problem. So yeah, and the next thing is you should also be looking at scale. And when you say scale, you should be thinking regional and international. I get out there as fast as possible. You can use social media to help you do that from the comfort of your home.
yeah, I do believe that anything that we're doing right now we shouldn't even think about doing it at home really, just get your skill outside there and get your skill outside there as quickly as possible and start earning foreign exchange as quickly as possible, because that's the only way you would survive. I'll give you an example. My wife, what she has a makeup business, but she has to import products, and her sticking point is, where do I get the US currency from? And I sit back and I think about it, if you want something that's absolutely different. If you're, let's say you're making earrings and you have this particular gem that you have to get from there, and sometimes some of the bands as well, when they get in their feathers, they have to import their feathers and whatnot. How do they operate? I sometimes sit back and try to figure out how do they work that maths. And some of the things that they have to do, some of the things I've heard that people have to do is you're buying US 8-1. Now I heard 10-1 sometimes, on the black market. Yeah, and that black market different. And then when you do that now, and you come to the bank and you say, listen, I have 5,000 US dollars, I want to put this on my card. Then the bank now says to you, okay, where you get that money from? And it's just like, you get to use that. If you have 5,000 cash and you say, all right, I want to put this on my card, they'll be like, nah, tell me where you get that money from, and says, in a real monkey pants as to what to do. I've gone outside there, you're telling me I can't get it in the bank. All right, I've gone outside there, I get it. When I get it, I bring it back to you. I say, put it on my card because I need to use it outside there. You're questioning where I get it from now and the legitimacy of how I got it, and that puts me in a real bind. It puts a lot of people in a real bind in terms of how they could use the money that they actually get, this creep up and get. How we getting past that? That is my, if it's one thing that we could do on this podcast right now, is to figure out that. How could we help a micro business owner, a micro business person access US, find US, when they script it up, put it on a platform that they're able to use and get outside there. Kevin,
all right. Yeah, if I would just set a little background. All right, so Keron mentioned Marla Dukaran's reports, right, and that we're asking the wrong questions, and that the governments, that successive governments are responsible for the Forex crisis that we're facing today. I just want to backpedal a little bit, right? Before we started recording, I was talking about my banking days of like 2010 or so, where we were able to, yes, there was still a US shortage, but it wasn't as bad. And a lot of the large companies, they would queue for US access, right? And then I think after 2014, around 2014, 2015, so then it started to get progressively worse, right? Based on Marla's report, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have it in front of me. Based on Marla's report, up until 2014, what we had was a auction window, right? And how that auction window would work is that these various banks, because the allocation will go from the central bank to the various banks, right? Various banks would say, okay, based on the projected needs of my clients, of my major clients, would be the big conglomerates, the large companies, based on the USD needs of my company, we would like to purchase X million or X 100 million, X billion US for this month, this quarter, or what have you, and we'll do it at this price, right? So that's how it used to work. People understood there's a system. If you need 100,000 US, it might take you a month and a half to get it, but you're getting X thousand every week, right? Now, according to the report, again, me paraphrasing, in 2014, that auction window was closed, and that's where you saw the exchange rate depreciate from 6.3, where it was around that time, to about 6.79, 6.8 by 2017. But you'll also notice that while things got worse in 2017, the exchange rate is still, to this date in 2024, at 6.79, right? Now, there's many arguments being made for, hey, why don't we just let the currency devalue, let the currency float on the open market, right? If you have to do that, you would wish you would get it for 8. you would wish you would get it for 8-1. All right. Most likely, I think I saw now that back in the 2010s, I think I saw the economist Roger Hussein. Yes, I remember it. He did an analysis and said that, and that was at that time, that if we were to let the TT exchange rate flow to the open market, it'll be worth around 9-1. Right? That was back then.
So
right? So if we were to let that free fall now, we know we could be talking well over 10 or whatnot. And then you have to think about that might allow you to say, okay, all right, well, I'll give you $15 for one or whatever it is, and you get your US. At the same time, a lot of people in Trinidad, the salaries are not going to adjust to that deceleration, that depreciation, right? So it's going to cause a destabilization in the economy. So
Overnight.
you can't just overnight or as fast as they do it, right? So you can't just do that. But what works in many economies is a sort of managed float. So you say, okay, let this go down to maybe 7.5, let it go down to 8 by reopening the auction window, which seems to be a good system. It seems to be a system that works, right? And let it operate like that. All right.
Yeah.
Now going back into what we can do. So I set the framework in terms of what the government has in place.
Because
So
I've been in that queue system, eh? I've been in
Yeah.
that, man, that queue system. Oh my God, it is unreliable. It's unreliable. And
Yeah.
it does not have the flexibility for emergencies or unplanned purchases. Yeah.
Okay. So in the economy, they'll have people who are net exporters and then people who are net importers, right? So the net importers might be like my boy Kerwin, I'm gonna hold it on to that US. He'll let that go. Right. And then the people like I don't know, me who need US right now. No problem. I'm wondering, and now this is an idea I'm putting out. Back in 2017, when I was in investment banking, my brother and I would have structured something that would have helped importers, right? Structured a banking product. But I want to float an idea here with you guys, right? So again, we have people who are net exporters who have USD, and we have people who need USD. If we were to do some sort of pool, some sort of pool or some sort of investment product where, all right, if Kerwin says, all right, I would invest, and the word is invest, I would invest my excess USD for a return that equals, let's say, that would equal 8.5 to 1, plus some sort of buffer just in case by the time it's time for you to get back your money, the rate is actually 9, plus some sort of buffer. So if you say, Kerwin, I will invest 10,000 USD to somebody who needs it, right? And for now, I'll take a return in a year time or 6 months time, whatever it is. I'll take a return of, let's say, 100,000 TT. So that equal, just for while number say that, and that rate would compensate you for the foreign exchange risk. It would compensate you for the fact that, hey, you're giving up your hard currency to get some local currency in the meanwhile. At that time, is that something that would make sense for somebody like you, Kerwin?
Yeah, so you see what you're doing there is entrepreneurship. The harder the problem, the bigger the reward, right? So and you come up with a logical solution there, which is what people are doing on the micro. So yes, people would approach me, all right, well, lend me this and I'll give you back this amount. And to balance it off that and make it sound reasonable. So if there's a structured thing like that is legal,
Yeah.
and you said the word is invest, which is critical in this situation. Very good.
Yes, you can't say, yep, you can't say
Yes.
trade.
Yeah. So so like an investment from a business point of view, that is definitely something net importance would look at, because sometimes you may want your money in TTD, but you're just disenchanted with the whole banking system. So you don't really want to go through the process of dumping your USD. So having something like that, if somebody has the will and the pain threshold to build out something like that, yeah, it will do well.
And some folks, even though they may have excess USD, they still have TTD expenses
Right.
that they may need to cover. You might have contractors in Trinidad that you might want to pay in TTD.
Right. So yeah, we're building a huge building in Central, and
there you go.
Yeah. So I as I said, it is something like I could see myself being interested in, us or persons like me who probably making way more USD than me be interested in. You can say one time the banks ain't gonna like it.
Well,
The system ain't gonna like it.
I saying
well,
until somebody decides to regulate that.
I mean, ideally, you would something you'd have to do alongside the central bank, because what you're doing is a
Right.
solving a problem alongside them. You're not competing with them. So it's something that you'd have to get sanctioned by the central bank. But I would say that in doing my research, there's this concept called community-driven forex pools that works in countries like India, Kenya, China, Brazil, where
Mm.
they do that, whether they do it by industries or whatever. But they would pool their their requests for USD, and people will pool their resources, and then they find some way to
But
make
from
it
a
work well.
government point of view, this is a country. A country supposed to be that. A country is supposed to be a pool like that, but it it's not working. It's not working, right? So
Well,
Yeah.
when it's not working, then you have private interests making their own separate little pods outside of the country.
And I think it is up to us, the private sector, to lead the solution in this, right?
Yeah.
Because the government can only do so much, and we can only wait for them to do so much. All right, we've been holding back Karen for a while. Let's hear.
I was gonna say from a personal perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges that um, we're not going to overcome in the short, maybe not even a medium term, but it has to happen, is the people need to start upskilling themselves into areas that can generate foreign exchange. When you think of a lot of the businesses that we create, it's all import-based business. How many people do we know importing clothes? How many people do we know selling food? How many people do we know just trying to do things on the local scene, but it's all import of the raw materials, import, import, import. So until the average person starts to upskill and start to think about, what types of jobs, even if it's a customer service job, that's just a different frame of mind that that person has to be in to be able to work remotely. We are a small island. I don't know how much we have to import everything. Like everything we pretty much import, right? Our
Mhm.
scale at which we export, we don't even know if at full potential, if we can export enough to generate the amount of foreign exchange and the type of economy that we could thrive in, right? But people need to start figuring out what kind of digital skills can I learn as an individual so I can get a job and I could bring in that foreign exchange. Or if I have a business, what types of digital things can we export? How can we generate other digital forms of revenue? Or how can we figure out how to export our products? How can we figure that out? Because we just don't have people thinking on those levels. Everything is still import, import, import. So that frame of mind, that paradigm shift, that's not going to change overnight. So in the short term to medium term, things are going to get really spooky. For those who can generate foreign exchange right now, it's best you start learning about the different banks outside of Trinidad and Tobago so you can start to park your US outside of TNT in the
Hey,
short term.
what Karen is saying, there's all signal, no noise. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like the common denominator, the X in the equation that must be solved. As if you're thinking as a entrepreneur, you can't be on that first degree business. There is lots of earnings to be done there if the system is working right. But unfortunately, Trinidad is the wrong place for that. So you can't be thinking import heavy business unless you're thinking about moving. So it's just the facts of life. So you have to be thinking, he's using the word upskill. You have to be thinking about a business that does more exporting than importing, or at least works internally in the country without having to do imports.
It's so easy to, like, if you're somebody who's skilled at graphic design, right off the bat, you could do graphic design for somebody in the US or somebody in the UK, whatnot, and get paid more for your time and effort than you could get paid locally. If you're somebody could develop websites, even if or somebody in my field, if you could do financial analysis or whatnot. I'm working on I have I'm outsourcing some work to folks in the UK and India and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's such in modern day times. Once you have a phone, a mobile phone, and a computer with internet access, I feel like it's not not that much excuse, really
Yeah.
and truly.
It's
Even if
actually
you have a full-time job.
irresponsible to say that you're an entrepreneur and you're not thinking that way. Earlier, before we started recording, Karen and I arrived on time. And we were discussing, and he said the word spooky just now. And I think, yeah, there is balance between how things go. Like, it may get really bad. It may get really bad. I don't want to be the predictor, doom and
It's
gloom,
bad
but
right now. It's really bad right now.
It's and the thing is, right, and when people ask, what was the driving factor to leave Trinidad, the first problem was the foreign exchange. The foreign exchange problem to me has made Trinidad unlivable, because you have people, right? Your business, and Kevin should know this, and Kevin, I know Kevin knows this. With the restrictions that we have, you cannot scale a business with the restrictions of Trinidad and Tobago. For example, I have a friend, has a business. They want to start importing materials from China. They made the trip to China. They linked up with the right manufacturers. They're getting the prices that they want for the materials, so now they can expand their business, right? My first question to that person was, okay, great, sounds amazing, because they how they broke it down, it sounded amazing. I said, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, so don't take it like that. But I have one question: how are you going to pay them? And then they were like, well, what do you mean? How am I going to pay them? I'm like, no, I know you have the money, but how are you going to pay them so that you can now scale your business? Because the materials and the manufacturing are coming from them, right? So how are you going to pay them? And then they literally broke down in tears, because they're like, I now understand what you mean. I don't know.
Sir. Yes, sir. It affects everything. It affects everything. I
You
don't know.
don't know. So what scale can you do when you don't have access to the outside markets to be able to scale that business?
Yeah, it's really tough when you're doing like a business that requires like those physical products or whatnot. It's really tough. I mean, I know you've spoken about platforms like Wise and PayPal or whatnot, but even those, it's not as easy to sign up on if you're not already on that platform. It's not as easy to sign up there and access foreign currency as it was a year ago. This problem is getting worse, and it's getting worse fast.
I'm an author, and when I have to produce my books now, I have to do everything in Trinidad. Sometimes the printry, I don't want to call the name, they're probably one of the best, probably in the Caribbean, but they just don't have the paper for the volume. They don't have the paper in stock. So it's affecting everything. So when it's bad now, but it can look
It's
very
going to get
sticky if you
worse.
change.
It's going to get
become very
worse.
sticky.
That's a raw material challenge that they have in there.
So until the regular people start to think digitally and start to upskill and start to think, okay, you know what? No, I'm not going to start that business that requires imports to get off the ground. Maybe I start that digital consultant in as a nutritionist business. Now I can get clients all over the world, or maybe I can work for a firm as a remote nutritionist. Like, there's so many fields that allow you to be remote, whether you're getting clients or whether you're working for organizations. And this is why the rest of the world, and I put this out as well, right? And the comments were probably more negative than good, but this is where we need to think about. You have the rest of the world, like Asia, the Eastern European countries, places in Africa, South America, that are focusing heavily on attracting digital nomads, specifically digital nomads, because those people do not take away from the local resources. They do not take away local jobs. They bring their higher currencies, and they're spending all of that money here. I am earning money from all over the world right now, but guess what? Thailand is getting all of my money. They're getting all of my US, right? If we start to position Tobago, because we could quicker clean up Tobago, and I think we could agree, we could quicker clean up Tobago than Trinidad, right? But
Right.
if we start to position
That's so good.
Tobago, yeah, yeah. If we
Yeah, no,
start
it's
to
very
position
practical.
Tobago, if we start to position Tobago as a place for digital nomads, because Trinidad is still one of the cheaper countries to live in the Caribbean, we still have, you know, better internet service than most other Caribbean islands or whatever at a pretty good cost, right? A lot cheaper than the US and in Canada. And our electricity rates are pretty low as well. So the cost of living in Trinidad is pretty low in comparison. If we start to bring more digital nomads here, they're going to be bringing all of their currency and spending it here. That's another great way, low hanging fruit for cash injection that we're not touching. But guess what? The rest of the world is. I'm here in Thailand on a digital nomad visa. But this is where other countries around the world are thinking about when they're thinking about the tourism aspect and bringing long-term stayers to their islands to spend their currencies.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think the leaders, this is I'm not a political person, but I think they're insulated by the real problem that the citizens face. And this old generation of leaders that we still have in Trinidad, they probably not even aware of something like this. Or if they're aware of it, they're not aware of it from an emotional standpoint. They're just aware of it as figures on a sheet of paper. So
Ah,
there's no connection to it. So there needs to be a turning over of the guard. I know Karen sounds really pessimistic on it. Like, will this happen? He's like, nah. He's very, he's in tune with reality. Probably I'm being a little
It's going
fanciful.
to happen. The thing is, right, is I know it's going to get better, but I also know it's going to get much worse. And
Right.
with the hole that we are in, the problems that we have on all fronts, from security to medical to economy diversification, these are not 5-year problems. They're not 10-year problems. These are generational problems. And we are getting deeper into the hole where, realistically speaking, it's going to take us 20 years at minimum to solve the scale of the problems that we have, because there's so much that has to happen in order to properly correct the issues. Now, you have the choice of saying, you know what, I'm not signing up for this. Maybe I go do something else and focus on that. Or you can do what a lot of us are doing. We can still move and navigate and live in other countries while still contributing to Trinidad and the Caribbean region. A lot of us are doing that as well. Or I tell people all the time, I think this is a great time for you to go out, explore the world, go live somewhere else for a bit, go get some new world knowledge, see how people are solving problems in
Yeah,
your
'cause it's gonna
industry in
become
different countries, right? Because at some point you're gonna want to bring that back. I know I want to move back to Trinidad in like 10 to 15 years, whatever. But in my space of digital marketing and e-commerce, why not take this time where Trinidad is at a low point? I still work and do everything in Trinidad, but why not take this time? Go live in Asia. Go live where e-commerce, digital marketing technology is leading the way, where I can go and soak up. I can take all the advantages of being in a
while you
healthy,
could.
safe environment while I can, right? Soak up that knowledge and learn, and I'm still contributing. And the goal is at some point I know I want to come back. But this is a good time for other people to start kind of thinking like that as well, because it's going to get worse in the short term.
one of the problems I
I agree.
think is that we move too slow to solve issues and solve problems that we have. And from a governmental standpoint, they don't have the flexibility, and they don't think outside the box sometimes, boy. Because a lot of what we're talking about here is outside of the box solutions, you know. Yeah, and when you sit down with your economists and then who say, yeah, I have 20 years on this, really and truly, your solutions back then is not the solution right now, because the entire climate that we live in has evolved from 20 years back then. Karen, I really take your advice with regards to, so if I'm a makeup artist and I need to start earning foreign exchange, from what I've been hearing from the conversation, I need to start I need to start making content and selling that online to bring in foreign exchange. That's the easiest way for me to export
You,
my skill.
You
Kern, that's
need
what you're
to.
doing. What a
Yeah.
perfect example, Kern. You mean?
He's a great Kern is a great example. I use Kern as an example all the time. I use Kern as an example I use Dr. Shen Lee from Smiling as an example as well. These are people who have taken extremely as traditional of a business as a physician, as a dentist, have taken traditional jobs and have still navigated the digital space to create opportunities outside of just providing that direct service and limiting their earning potential and also growing their awareness. Right now, Kern all over the place. If Kern want to go Jamaica, Kern go in Jamaica. If Kern want to go Barbados, Kern could go and build it up and get that. Shenley traveling all over the world because she's getting invited for conferences as well, and that's generating more business for her. But you guys and all of us have learned how to navigate digital marketing in all of the various ways that we can imagine. Kerwin's been killing it on YouTube. Kern's been killing it on TikTok. Kevin leading the way in podcasting, right? So we've all figured out our different lanes and how to market ourselves to generate business opportunities. We need more people learning how to do that, because even if you have a successful physical business, you could have the best double stand. Your earning potential is always going to be limited. You have to hope people come out that day and generate some money. Why aren't you learning how to go and make content, how to start generating USD from a YouTube channel, or how to start penetrating into foreign markets where they're booking you to fly in to provide these services or to provide courses on how to teach these foods? We should be partnering up with all the carnival bands that are going from city. There's a Trinidad style carnival in almost every other country, which is why our carnival is going to be threatened with lower turnout, because now we've exported our culture. But now, since there's more value in other countries, if you're telling me for the price of one Trinidad carnival, I could now do Miami, I could do London, I could do Italy, I could do San Francisco, whatever, for the price of one Trinidad carnival, right?
Oh boy.
So again, we are exporting the culture. So if I'm selling doubles, I'm trying to link up with Tribe and I'm trying to ask about, let's start exploring some opportunities where we can travel and start to bring our culture, but different aspects of it to generate other opportunities as you guys are traveling to more and more countries, exporting our carnival.
As you were speaking there, Keron, I remember one time this guy set up a GoPro on his excavator and he's cleaning a drain. And I literally sat down and gave 10 minutes of my time watching this guy clean a drain. And I was like, what am I doing? But yeah, it was so interesting. And I'm here sitting here and you talk about doubles. And I'm like, wouldn't it be fun or interesting? Or would somebody give their time to see how you make doubles and how you put that together? People would sit down and watch that. And I'm like, this is everything that you do on a daily basis is content that can open doors for you. Yeah, but you have to produce your content. But go ahead.
Listen, yeah, no, I was just going to say it's so easy to scale no matter what you do. Like even if you're a barber. So just like how you're doing massages, you're cracking people's backs and all these things. You create your video on that. Now you're in Guyana, just now you might be in Jamaica, whatever it is. And I mean, all it costs is what? A plane ticket? A plane ticket. Well, three clients work, you buy a plane ticket. Similar for a barber, maybe a day's work, you buy a plane.
Look at crew cuts.
Right. You just, it's so easy. If Chef Ramsay was to come to Trinidad to cook to open a restaurant or do a stand to cook somewhere for nights, won't you go? You know, so it's like we really don't have that many excuses, really and truly. We really don't have that many excuses, no matter what we're doing. And you have any sort of skill, you're doing anything that people want to pay you for in your home country, you could do it somewhere else too. If you really want to earn money outside.
It's the will. It's the will to learn, because each and every one of us on this call right now, everybody, aside from their actual skill set and profession, has spent probably even more time learning how to market their craft and build their brand. And that is what the average person doesn't want to do. And that is the ticket to start to generating your own foreign exchange, where you're not going to be subjected to the fate of the Central Bank of Trinidad, where that's,
Wow.
that's
This
all
man
your.
Hey, Karen, you're really good at hitting the signal and not hitting the noise, but you're right. It's true. It's the will to learn. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
will
Yeah,
to
it's
learn.
the will to learn.
Because
It's the will
as
to learn.
because as you're speaking, I'm saying to myself, but this is not for everybody, because not everybody have the will to learn. Uh,
Kun, you remember when you sign up for the course, bro?
yo,
Kun signed up because he
this
saw
is
me doing some stuff online. The man signed up and the man saw every piece of information out of the course before
It's
he
so
jumped
true.
in online. And
It's
it's
so
just the
true.
will to do it. It's the will to do it for real, boy. Wow.
I was thinking about back when I was starting my podcast, so I would binge on podcasting and equipment and all that stuff for hours. And well, Karen knows. Karen and I talked a lot. We probably spoke every day during the pandemic, especially when he was he was starting up his stuff. It's just question. We asking each other questions. Say, Karen, how do you do? What's this equipment here? And Karen, like, Kevin, what's your interview style? All these things.
Podcasting and live streaming, the amount of conversations we had.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. You just have to evolve with the times.
Kerwin and I too. I mean, whenever we say we rap about, what you're doing business this week, or how the business evolving between then and now, and that kind of, and trust me, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. That will to learn is you can't let that die. You can't let that die, and you have to foster that. You have to feed
That's the
that.
entrepreneurial spirit. That's the entrepreneurial spirit.
It's,
So all of you all here using the language, it's just making me smile because you're using the language that it's you can hear it. Like when Dr. Shanali, that's my dentist. When you hear her speak, you hear her speak the language. And the care and the dedication and the will to learn and improve and the quality that she's trying to bring. Another thing with traveling is that it introduces you to quality outside of your own scope. So so just that you can see that she has it. She has that language. So yeah. Anybody who's listening, the value that you can take away from this is very, very, very good. Very good. I would say that you should definitely jump on some kind of social media platform, some kind of digital platform. Even this is where your learning process starts. You would have to decide, do you want to be a personality brand? Do you want to be a brand where you are just the business is the brand, the student hub is the brand, or Kerwin Springer is the brand, or both? What you want to do, but you have to do it. And right now is the best time. Yesterday was the best time. Today is the second best time, because as it's going to become the cost for entry is only getting higher.
yeah.
It's easy now for a doubles person to come and take over the doubles social media
Oh,
market.
amen.
It's
Amen.
easy. Somebody who's a doubles person now listening this, there's a vacuum there. For somebody to come in education and take over the education market, you'll have to face Kerwin Springer. You have to face Kerwin Springer, who has a high moat. You'd have, if you're trying to go into rehabilitation and wellness and chiropractic, you have to face Kern. So whatever your business is, the cost of moving now, putting it off is going to be very high.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out, in different territories, jumping on the podcast and sharing your knowledge a little bit about foreign exchange and how we navigate this time that we're in. I mean, all of that impacts your wellness and it impacts your ability to live well.
You tied it in perfectly, because at the end of the day, this affects your mental health, this entire situation that we are in, because as Kern said, you're now forced to be in a position where it may be irresponsible for you to stay. So this is all impacting our wellness.
Well, another important thing to highlight is the importance of being around people who focus on solutions, as opposed to just being around people who complain about the problem, because energy is very contagious. That's that open-mindedness is very contagious. Mindset is very contagious. So you want to, it's like, we have a nice little community going on here, just the four of us right here. You want to be very, very intentional about who you spend your time around. spend your time around people who are positive, who are coming up with solutions, who encourage you to think openly, encourage you to think differently, as opposed to the masses who are always looking for issues to complain about.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that, Kevin. That's so nice. Because that right there. Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. Yeah, that's what that is. If you don't have money, you can't live well, you know. Yeah,
Boy.
yeah. If your
Right.
mind not right, you can't live well, and if your body's not good, you can't live well. Yeah, so it's all about you in wellness. Gentlemen, thank you. Karen, Kevin, Kerwin. Cheers from you and wellness.
Bless it, bless it.
Cheers.